Hello and welcome to Archvelder's Hacks with Archvelder and his amazing hacks. In this video I'm going to be going over my legacy of gold making tricks. It may surprise you to learn that despite the very controversial nature of this channel, a great deal of the older content was never fixed or nerfed by Blizzard and can be very profitable to this day. There are all kinds of gems located in this forbidden and exciting lore. One of the most common comments I get on my older videos is, does this still work? So I'm going to go through all of my gold making videos going back into Legion and tell you exactly what still works and what doesn't. But before we start, I'd just like to mention my Patreon, where we have dozens of active exploits like the secret of how to create this marvelous infinite army of silver warriors that let you grind ultra fast experience and gold. If you can't afford it, that's absolutely fine. Just relax and enjoy the free content. This video from December 2017 contained 5 unusual tricks to farm gold faster. 2 methods in particular here still work. If you've got a spare character lying around, you can farm up some dinosaur bones on the Isle of Giants in the north of Pandaria, and then just park them next to this NPC and get a free Spirit of Harmony in seconds every day from a repeatable quest. If you've got a character you don't use much, this is not a bad place to put them. There's also a trick to farm things in caves, which works really well to this day, and few know about. If you put a demonic circle or monk spirit outside a cave in a strategic position, it allows you to mount up and get back to the entrance again very quickly. This next video from January 2018 was a bit of an unusual departure for me, as it was mostly just me explaining how to use some of the techniques I'd learned from the worlds of gambling and investing on the Warcraft auction house. Although this type of intellectual discussion is always going to have a smaller audience, I was surprised by the enthusiastic reception it received. You can make a lot of gold from using these investment strategies. I would seriously consider giving this video a look, even if you don't play the auction house. I think I mostly succeeded in explaining high-level strategies professional gamblers and investors use in layman's terms. You won't find many accessible treatments of these topics that aren't littered with confusing jargon. This next video I have mixed feelings about, because on the one level this is absolutely the best type of video for gold making on YouTube. A quick and simple way to farm a valuable set of plans from Blackrock Spa using the tar function. This method takes a minute to learn and a minute to execute. The problem was with this video that it was far more successful than I ever anticipated. Consequently, the auction house got flooded with the plans that you get from this farm, which are really quite a niche item. As this item was more of a trick than an exploit, there was never any prospect of Blizzard fixing it. However, the market did get saturated. One of the best pieces of advice I can offer is to periodically check back on my older videos, and indeed those of other quality gold farmers on YouTube, after they stop getting traffic. Then you'll find that any drop in the price of an item on the auction house caused by a gold making video is no longer a thing. I was very reluctant to give away the secrets of farming corium ore in this next video. Corium has an almost mythic quality in Warcraft as the most valuable ore in the game. This trick, again not really an exploit as such, allows you to farm corium faster than any other method by force spawning nodes in instances. The mechanics of this trick mystify people to this day, as you can hit instance lockout without getting a corium node. However, on average, it is time efficient despite this, and indeed that's why the price of corium hasn't crashed as a result of this video. The technique in the video can only be done in short bursts, unless you can do it on multiple realms. I have an even faster and even more powerful method for farming corium for a priest specifically, which is the strongest ever gold farming technique I have developed that isn't an exploit. but since I used that one myself, I had to keep that one exclusively on my Patreon. The next video is entitled Best Old WoW Dungeons to Solo Farm for Raw Easy Gold. When I made this video, it was relatively easy to make respectable amounts of gold by just running the best dungeons in the right way. And the routes still work, but Blizzard fundamentally changed the way raw gold farming worked in Shadowlands, significantly increasing the raw gold from completing world quests for Covenant callings, and heavily nerfed the raw gold farming from old dungeons. The better dungeons seem to have been reduced to what is a uniform rate of around 120 to 130 gold per minute at best. Consequently, it is debatable whether this is worth it or not anymore. The first thing you should do if you are focused on raw gold is your Covenant callings on all your characters and alts. The second thing, as we'll see, is Legion raids and a handful of other older raids. Only then does running dungeons make any sense, and frankly I have difficulty recommending anything which is less than about 10k per hour. That said, many people still just love grinding dungeons for gold, in which case this video is a good starting point. The next video was a much more explicit exploit, entitled WoW Gold Farming Secret Reset Hack Blackwing Descent. You see, the raid instance Blackwing Descent at the time had a weird and advantageous glitch. If you completed the raid, then exited it, and re-entered after 30 minutes, you could kill the last two bosses again, and the drops from these were pretty good raw gold. They also gave you a shot at a lucrative pet. Most raids are designed to be completed once a week. This one you could do every half an hour. I discovered shortly afterwards that this glitch was present in more than one raid, not just Blackwing Descent. Sadly, all of them, including Blackwing Descent, got subsequently fixed. All but one. I can't mention it publicly, though it is on my Patreon, but it isn't too hard to figure out which one it is. A hint, there's lots of bugs in that raid. Moving into 2019, there was this video on Ulduar, where due to a horrendous scaling glitch, certain mobs in Freya's Garden were dropping a whopping 3,000 gold. This lasted a surprising amount of time before it got fixed, but fixed eventually it was. That said, there's a ton of ways to exploit Ulduar for profit, especially with a hunter. This next video from March 2019 I mentioned because it is a perfect illustration of how Blizzard prioritized bugs which allow people to enjoy the game rather than the numerous glitches which ruin the player experience. The concept here was to run the garrison invasions from Warlords of Draenor and exploit the lumpy scaling which made them trivial and a nice source of raw gold at the time I published the video. This was far from game-breaking, really just a fun way to spend 10 minutes doing something more interesting than a repetitive farm. But for some reason, Blizzard made the invasions essentially a waste of time by nerfing the drops. This next video was all about the Burning Crusade and the world bosses, which drop some very valuable items, in some cases over 100,000 gold's worth. At the time, Blizzard had decided to increase the spawn rate of the Burning Crusade world bosses, and the player population hadn't really caught up. They can still be farmed to this day, but you will likely face more competition. This next video from May 2019 I worked really hard on. It outlined a series of powerful methods to exit a dungeon quickly and return to the start without having to waste time trudging back through the dungeon. This video is actually more useful than when I made it, since at the time you could simply use the help unstuck function, kill your character and return to the entrance, so you often didn't need to use the more exotic methods that I outline in this video. Now this video is pretty much essential viewing, as Blizzard changed the way help unstuck works, and that isn't an option anymore. This video on farming Sunwell Plateau for gold was one of my favourites. You could exploit the mobs near the entrance by shifting in and out of combat using something like Feigned Death, and cause the mobs to respawn endlessly. This was ludicrously profitable, and Blizzard fixed it quickly. However, comically, Blizzard didn't watch to the end of the video, and they didn't nerf the mobs at the end of the instance, which could also be forcibly respawned for some months. Eventually they fixed that too, but there's still actually a method demon hunters can use to farm mobs which relies on evasion mechanics in this latter part of the instance. The next video was enormously successful, clocking up 400,000 views. The basis of this video was simple. Farming old Mists of Pandaria and Warlords of Draenor raid bosses is quite profitable. The problem is that to actually get to those bosses takes a lot of time tramping around corridors and killing mostly worthless trash, which significantly reduces your gold per hour from doing those old raids. So in this video I showed you how to use the looking for raid method to teleport directly to bosses and eliminate travel time. Blizzard have significantly reduced the drops from Mists and Warlords raid bosses, to the extent that where you were looking at making 10,000 gold an hour doing this, it's tough to top 6,000 gold an hour doing it now. But aside from Covenant callings, this is still one of the best ways to generate raw gold for solo players. For example, most in-world gold farms max out at 3,000 gold per hour, making the LFR method twice as profitable. Additionally, it is worth mentioning that the pets that drop from these old instances are farmed much less now, so they sell faster and for more than they ever used to. This next video showed how to exploit the mechanics of the skyreach dungeon to make about 5,000 gold in 40 minutes. This method still works, but Blizzard reduced the value of gold and vendor drops by about 40%. Some still do it, it's a beautiful dungeon, but in my opinion your time would be better spent leveling alts so you can do more Covenant callings, assuming you are after raw gold. Next up is a very weird trick in a video entitled WoW Easy Gold Farm. It shows several techniques to pull whole instances without having to run through the dungeon. This method was never fixed and works pretty well to this day. The following video was inspired by a suggestion from fellow YouTuber The Brilliant Golden Roots. I'll leave a link to his channel below. He kindly volunteered a method whereby you could aggro Onyxia, take her into her second phase, and then kill the dragonkin that spawned in the passage behind her, and then skin them. This was a fantastic and lucrative trick that worked well for a while. Unfortunately, Blizzard fixed it about a month after release. Hello, and welcome to Archvelder's Yaks with Archvelder and his amazing yaks. One of my favourite videos, which surprisingly works well to this day, I show how to spawn numerous yaks by glitching out a vehicle quest. At the time I recommended using this powerful yak army to farm questionable meat, which you can just do now with a level 60 character, as the mobs in the quest area became trivial to kill in Shadowlands. However, in Shadowlands this actually became a pretty good way to level. Just hook up with a low level player and turn on party sync, and the yaks will kill pretty much anything in the area for you. Be warned, however, they are pretty temperamental. If you look at the original video, there is a really useful post in the comment section from Flop, which explains how best to control them. This titanically successful video from February 2020 tripled the size of my Patreon membership. When Blizzard brought out the new version of the Veil of Eternal Blossoms, they somehow messed up the pathing in the old one, causing these stone lions to spawn far too quickly, creating what many consider to be the best ever farming opportunity in WoW. The sheer range and diversity of drops you can get from the lions was unparalleled in my experience. Most people think this one was fixed because the stone lions were eventually nerfed. They stopped dropping loot altogether. However, this farm is still one of the best ways to farm ghost iron ore and trillium, as the lions can still be mined. The last time I checked on this a few months ago, you could still make 15k an hour easily doing this. I think it's over 20k now, as the price of ghost iron has gone up a bit, and may well be even more on specific realms where ghost iron is in greater demand than average. This next video, entitled WoW Legion Gold Guide, expanded on my previous WoW Gold Guide video to show how to use LFR to quickly and effectively skip to Legion bosses. Some of the techniques to skip to bosses directly are very counterintuitive, and this one took me quite a while to figure out. This method is as effective as when I uploaded it. There haven't been any nerfs to gold drops for Legion as there were with older expansions. For raw gold enthusiasts, this is the thing you should be doing with your characters after you have completed your world quests for your Covenant callings. The main problem with this method is that there aren't that many Legion bosses you can kill efficiently, but with time, as our player power increases, more and more bosses from Legion and eventually Battle for Azeroth will become profitable to kill. This next video allowed the player to spawn endless mobs in Orgrimmar crypts and farm lucrative items from the Burning Crusade, which can fetch 100,000 gold or more, much faster than using any other method. Naturally, Blizzard didn't allow this for very long and stopped the mobs in question dropping loot. Although this was fixed, Orgrimmar Crypts remains one of the most exploitable dungeons in the game, as you'll find out if you try and solo the dungeon as a Death Knight. The following video was a rare example of a really challenging hack. Hellfire Citadel in Draenor at the time had some bosses which offered some lucrative drops, but a first boss that was ridiculously time consuming due to an excessive amount of roleplay. Players immediately tried to find ways to skip to the later bosses, and Blizzard subsequently put in a complex array of death walls and invisible barriers. I found it perverse in the extreme that Blizzard wasted time on this, since while the boss drops were good, they were far from game-breaking even with a skip, especially as many aspects of the game were completely broken at that moment. So I resolved to try and find another skip, which was more difficult than most of my exploits were to find, since Blizzard had specifically tried to prevent any possibility of that happening. After trying and failing with numerous methods and literally getting stuck or dead in some cases, it was really satisfying to find a working method at last. This technique is still viable in 2021. Blizzard did nerf the value of the raw gold and vendorable items that drop from bosses in Hellfire Citadel. However, it's still worth running the dungeon, as some of the pets that can drop from the bosses are extremely valuable. The next video covered a range of methods to skin quickly and profitably in Battle for Azeroth content. Now, you'd think this would be obsolete in Shadowlands, but skins from BFA content actually still sell pretty fast and make more gold than raw gold farming and many other basic gold making techniques. The techniques in this video still work very well, but if you want to push it, it's worth mentioning one of my patrons came up with an amazing trick to instantly respawn some mobs endlessly for skins in a Battle for Azeroth location you would never guess in a million years. There was a lot of talk at the time about shuffling the materials via the use of a leatherworker and veteran armor pieces, but in truth I have never had any difficulty selling the raw materials from Battle for Azeroth in that expansion or in Shadowlands on the auction house fast for more than you can get from any shuffle. This next video explained how to farm the underhold in the Siege of Orgrimmar raid instance. This was a pretty good raw gold farm, and although like everything else had its raw gold and vendor items nerfed, it has a crumpled ace in the hole. The Spirits of Harmony that drop here increased in value in Shadowlands, offsetting most of the losses. The main problem with the initial video was that it could only be done 6 times an hour, so you had to find something to farm in the interim. One of my patrons discovered an ingenious method to extend that to 10 times now. Next up is one of the most important videos I've ever uploaded. You can literally farm almost everything up to twice as fast using this technique, which allows you to slip between time walking and normal realms instantly, effectively causing everything to respawn. This method continues to work to this day. For anyone who does any kind of gold farming, it is absolutely essential to watch this one. You are almost certainly missing out if you don't. This video, entitled Easy Gold Items Worth 60,000 Gold in 15 Minutes, explains how to get valuable bind-on equip items and pets from Ardenweald using a highly optimized route. This route still works, though the items in question have fallen in value somewhat. However, this is still a very effective technique. The follow-up to my Battle for Azeroth skinning guide contains a diverse assortment of tricks to skin faster in Shadowlands content. All of the methods I mentioned work to this day. Skinning materials have come down somewhat from the ridiculous highs at the start of the expansion, but the methods in the video will allow you to make decent regular income. Another skinning video. This one is about a raid in the Wrath of the Lich King expansion, and it still works. This video shows a combat reset method which allows you to endlessly respawn dragonkin mobs and skin them for Borean leather. Next up is a video which is actually one of the best gold farms out there, since you can make 5,000 gold's worth of ore in 10 minutes. Unlike a lot of legacy items, Elementian ore actually sells. It is really rare to find a quick, easy farm like this, which pays off in the short term. The title of this video didn't appeal to YouTube's algorithm, so this one is well worth looking at, as you'll face less competition on the auction house from others when doing this one. Finally, the most recent video on farming Huolon in the Timeless Isle unsurprisingly still works very well, allowing you to solo farm a valuable mount in time walking mode. To stop this video being 10 hours long, I haven't covered everything, and some things I've admitted deliberately, but this is nonetheless a pretty comprehensive guide to my most recent gold exploits. I've included links to every video in the description below. Bear in mind that the value of these videos isn't just in the exploits presented, it's also in the methodology, and that can show you how to create or find your own gold farms, which you'll get all to yourself. Naturally, the best type of gold farm is one that you get all to yourself. If you find gold making exploits fascinating, then you may wish to consider joining my Patreon, where there is a huge archive of gold making techniques and other WoW exploits that can't be made public. Please like, comment and subscribe. Thanks for watching. This has been Archvelder.